This episode is sponsored by Clark's Corvair Parts. Welcome back to Seal Beam Rally Team. I'm Tyler. I got a very important phone call last night from the cylinder head shop, and my heads are ready. They're done. So let's get this engine ready to put those on, and we'll try to get this thing all buttoned up. I think the first obvious thing to do here is this fan bearing. So let's pop this top cover off. I want to get an inspection in there too, and we'll do this thing on a bench instead of having to struggle on top of the engine. This is a press fit shaft in here, and since I have access to the bottom, it gives me a lot better opportunity to put heat in there. One thing we want to do before that, apparently, and I'll put the link in the description or right here, but you want to put some screws in here and bottom them out a little bit on the top cover here. That'll allow you to set the new depth correctly when you put the new one in. Can't quite get those bolts today, so we're going to wait on that. I got this degreased. It's pretty close to being all clean. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's move on to the rear of the engine. And I'm going to just take off everything on the back here so we can get access to the oil adapter thing. This whole thing I want to take off so I can get in there and clean everything. And it's got a bunch of dirt in there that I can't get out unless I take this off. The distributor seems like a good place to start, so I'm going to pop that off. Oh, that seems like that's not supposed to be in two pieces. Alright. The shaft feels good. I guess there's play in there. Probably needs to be gone over. So this won't come out. I think it's supposed to be installed, everything's supposed to be installed on top of the stud. So I'm trying to hold this with a vice grip and then see if I can get the nut off the stud so we don't have to cut the stud in half, because that would suck. Oh yeah! To let that thing sit there and cool off for about 2 weeks. Alright, that looks pretty good. We'll get that powder coated probably. Now skeletons, I guess. Alright, last thing before I go in, I pulled the fuel pump out. It's pretty easy. You just pull this set screw out of the side of the housing, and that kind of sits right up here. And the set screw goes here. Of course, the oil filter hangs off here. And I'm going to throw this in the ultrasonic cleaner. I think this will fit, just barely. I'm feeling pretty good about this project so far. I'm going further than I wanted to, but pulling the front off here will allow me to do the front main seal. When I do the clutch, I can do the rear main seal, and that'll mean that pretty much all the seals on the engine will be replaced. It should be a higher probability that I will have 0 oil leaks. Alright, I got the loaner tool. It's time to do some pulling. Oh, there we go. Why is it catching? Probably the fuel pump rod. There we go. Sweet. Got a little bit of sludge down there, so probably good to get this cleaned out. We'll throw this in the ultrasonic cleaner, probably degrease it first, ultrasonic cleaner, and hopefully find myself a new seal out here. We'll clean this gasket surface up. I'll probably have to do a little bit of detail cleaning in around this stuff, but overall the area that the oil was overall pretty clean, aside from that little bit of sludge that we found. So I think mostly I'll be able to leave this thing alone. This is out of the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm pretty happy with it. Had to do a few runs with it. Would have helped if I degreased it beforehand, but pretty happy. I got the gasket off of there, and all I need to do now is take this steel oil-filled tube and paint it, because it was painted black originally. I didn't know because it was so oily. But we'll get that painted up, and now I guess I should get this hub off the top cover here so we can send that into powder coating. The basic principle here is this is a press fit bearing that just goes straight in with the shaft. So we're gonna heat up the aluminum around it, and then should pop the bearing right out. So let's try that, see if it works. I don't know, I might want to take this to a shop. Alright, while I'm doing it, degreasing and all that stuff, I gotta find something else to do. So I'm gonna try to pull the clutch off here and get access to the front of the engine so I can clean everything completely. We're gonna do the clutch in a different video, but we'll take it off now.
You can take the bell housing off too?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then I have a special toy I got for myself. It's a speed wrench, because I don't like power tools that much.
Are we expecting some mouse things in here?
Could be a house in there, yeah. It's actually not that bad, is it? Rebuilt Unit Parts Company, Oklahoma. It's got quite a bit of
Still got the writing on it.
Wow.
Might not be that old, huh?
No. Pull the flywheel off now. We got our wrench jammed in the... Oh no. Oh no! Got a wrench jammed in the clutch lever hole. Okay. Oh, they're on there. Holy. Alright. Oh yeah, this clutch probably has asbestos, by the way, so it's really good for you. Oh, God. Obviously we're open to the oil in here. The timing gear looks pretty good to me. Yeah, looking good to me. Got a lot of cleaning to do on this engine. It's pretty nasty. You have to get some degreaser on that stuff. I mean, look at that. We're back from the head shop. This guy Tom does a really good job, and he does all kinds of heads, everything from you know, new Subarus and LS blocks to flathead. He had a flathead Plymouth inline 6 sitting there. Super cool guy, and great work. So I'm excited to pull these out, see what they look like. Oh my gosh, that looks so pretty. Good golly, look at that. Jeez, that looks nice. Yeah, this one's got a little bit, but it'll seal up fine, I'm sure. It looks
very nice looking.
Pretty damn nice to me.
Brand new?
Yeah, brand new, all the valve stuff is brand new. New springs, everything, so that thing should run great.
New seats?
Yep, valve seats. Things should be, well, I guess they came from the factory with the valve seat inserts, but this one's, you know, got new ones. Yeah, I'm sure she'll run. I've been cleaning up on this engine here, and I found that a little bit of Dawn water here, sprayed on and brushed with either a nylon brush or a brass brush, was able to get a lot of the gunk off of here. And so what I did, I used a brass and nylon so it wouldn't scratch the aluminum, but I still need to get in the corner. Jeez. Still need to get in the corners here and get all the gunk from the edges and all this stuff before I go and reassemble this engine. So what I'm going to do is put the old cylinder, the old cylinders on here, slide them in, and then that will allow me to clean all this stuff without getting water into the crankcase. I'm going to have to put the top cover on before I do that. But I'm going to pull these piston rings off. That'll allow me to put those cylinders on a little easier and get that protection from the water. Last week I picked up a nice used crankcase vent tray. That was about 20 bucks from a local guy in the Corvair club, so pretty happy with that. I want to throw this on, but we need to blow the crankcase out with some air first. I want to get as much debris out of this as I can. One of the things that I like about the Corvair engine here is that the bolt pattern on the top is not symmetrical, so it forces you to install stuff correctly. So if I flip this upside down, you know, I'm touching the main bearing stuff. If I put it on here, see, that's correct, but if I flip it around the opposite way, it does not line up with the holes. So that means that when the engine is turning the way it turns, it's going to splash the oil up past these louvers the correct direction. It's easy to figure out what direction that is. And I did go and shine this thing up. It has some lines from being in the ultrasonic cleaner, which is unfortunate, but I think it looks a lot better. I'll be happy to have that on top of my engine. Alright, yes, correct. Awesome. We're going to throw our Loctite on here one by one. I'm going to take them down with the speed wrench, and then we're going to torque them to between 7 and 13 pounds, foot-pounds, so that's not very much. Don't over-torque these things. Now, just to make sure I got it right, I'm going to go back and double-check each one of them and put a little yellow dot on each one that is checked out and torqued correctly. And they take just a little bit more torque the second time, don't they? I got one more thing to do before I take this out and power wash it. Well, two more things. The first thing is that I want to put these old jugs back on, and I have no piston rings on here right now. So these should slide on pretty easily, and they're going to serve the purpose of just deflecting the water when I wash it from going inside the crankcase. Hopefully keep that a little bit cleaner. I know a little bit's going to drip in there, but it's aluminum. I don't want it spraying into the bearings and stuff. So I'm going to install those here around these real loose, like just kind of press them in there, and we will then the second thing, of course, is to tape off the ends. I don't have those end covers ready yet. I want to get them cleaned up a little bit better before I put them on again, but I should be able to get this cleaned up enough to spray all the gunk off of the side of the crankcase and have that a little nicer looking when I put all the expensive parts on. I am kicking myself for not degreasing it and pressure washing it before I took it apart, because that would have saved a lot of time, but we are where we are right now, and I'm going to go degrease this and we'll bring it back inside after it's clean. I think it went pretty well overall. I used a dental pick on some of the deeper just gunk on that thing. Went through it, I think, 3 different times with the 3M degreaser, and when I got it in, blew it off with compressed air. I used a heat gun to try to evaporate all the water I could, and then I used a torch a little bit as well. And then I hit it with water displacement 40 to try to displace the remaining water in there. I also hit inside the engine, tried to get the camshaft and con rods and everything. I also don't have an oil pan right now, so everything should be dripping through along the aluminum crankcase. Yeah, I also sprayed out the lifters, so hopefully we're okay. A little bit more water got in the ends, the front and the back, than I was hoping, but we're gonna go with it because that's all we can do. Now that I got the engine all cleaned off, it's time to put the blower bearing on. I have the hub that I got powder coated, so that looks nice, and I got a new bearing from Clark's, And Clark's gives you the instructions as always. They give you a Loctite 271 with it because they're having, I guess, issues finding the oversized press fit bearings, so they say that you can put the Loctite 271 on. We will do that later. For now, I want to press this into the hub. They say that you're supposed to press, of course, with the outside because you're pressing the outside in. You don't want to mess up the bearing in there. So I couldn't. I tried to put a socket on here and my socket bottoms out. So I'm going to try an alternate method here. Found a big washer, put the washer on, and then I got this random tube, and I don't know what this came from, but we're gonna try to use it. Put that on, and that should press on that outside shell of the bearing. So we can, I think, just barely put this thing in the vise. Maybe? Nope. Is it gonna be easy to set this up in the press? Let's try the press. Well, that thing is a piece of crap, but it does work. Jeez.
Nice to have. We've used it a few times, right? Yeah.
That looks pretty good to me. It's nice and flush, and I think it'll work. I'm going to get this thing cleaned off with acetone on the top and bottom.
Good clean.
Yeah. I think it's clean enough anyway, so we're going to go forward with that. We have our Loctite 271 here that comes in the Clark's kit, and I'm going to try to push it in. I checked my video, and it's supposed to go in this way until these bottom out here. And that will ensure that I have the same blower fan spacing relative to the engine that I did before. I think that's it. All right.
That one good.
I definitely would not recommend hammering it. It's not a good process. Definitely try to press that in before you put the top cover on. I'm just an idiot, so that's where I've put myself. What's weird is after hammering it, it appears to be bleeding. But we're gonna act like that's not blood, because I don't want that to be blood. My big question is, how does the fan look on it? Absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It's been kind of boring work off camera here, but I took a broken piece of a piston ring. I kind of broke this in a little third or a quarter, and I went in these grooves and tried to get all the carbon out as best I could, and that kind of fits the width perfectly, so it did okay. There's still a lot of stuff I can't get to. And then I took a couple strips of sandpaper and I tried to get under these studs and clean those off with the rust, and I took the Amsoil metal protector, which is like a Cosmoline, and I sprayed all those, so hopefully they're kind of encapsulated from the rusty elements and all that stuff that hits engines. Now it's time. It's finally time to put some piston rings on this thing and start reassembling the engine. I got some rings from Clark's. I got matching rings and cylinders for it, so I should be able to assemble everything just the way it wants to be without having to do custom ring gaps or anything like that. So Clark's sends the Hastings rings, made in USA, made in Michigan, and there's a little instruction manual for those from Clark's. That has break-in periods as well, and we have a ring installation guide from Hastings. So let's follow this. I got the other side done off camera, so I think I know what I'm doing, but it's my first time doing rings. So let's take a gander. One thing I like about the packaging of the Hastings rings is they actually put numbers on the envelopes for you. So we know that 3 goes on the inside toward the center line of the engine, number 2 goes in the middle, and then number 1 goes on the outside of the pistons toward the heads. So it makes it pretty foolproof. As long as you keep them in the envelopes till you need them, you can figure out where they go. I also got Molly piston rings, and these are Clark says they're supposed to take 2,500 miles to break in on 20 non-detergent oil. So I guess I'll be driving this for like a year to break it in, but that's okay. I want it to last a long time and perform well. Let's throw these things on. First thing I'm going to do is mark those 4 places I'm going to clock those rings to. and that'll allow me to take my mind off that when I'm concentrating on not breaking all the rings. I want to make sure that the dots do not line up the wrist pin. You want to make sure that they're kind of off center. 45 degrees is good. Just something that keeps you in the right vicinity here. I'm only really going to use two tools, the spring expander here, and I have an oil drip, whatever you call this thing, oil can. So I'm going to put oil in all these grooves here. And this is VR1 conventional. I'm told you don't want to use synthetic on new rings or cylinders. Then we got our number 3 envelope, one of the number 3 envelopes with our ring spacer. So I'm going to throw that on here. I have the piston propped up above the stud. The studs are really hard to work around, so whatever you can do to get this thing kind of centered. I have something below it right here just to keep it in the right place. So I got that. I got the gap at the top there, and now we've got 2 oil control rings. So I'm just using my oil here to put a little on it. I'm going to spread that around, make sure that my rings are well lubricated. Now you want to put the first one on the outside of the spacer here, and you can, I guess, kind of spiral that around. It's kind of hard, kind of tough to manage, but yeah, at first I was wearing I keep that off the piston if you can, it's kind of hard. So I put that one clocked at the upper left dot. I'm going to do the next one at the lower left dot, and those will be, what is it, 90 degrees away from each other? There we go. So I clocked that down. We still got this here, we got this here, we got the gap at the top. So I'm going to move on to the compression rings here. The number 2 is from the middle, and that is the cast iron ring, I believe. So we'll get a little oil on that thing. Pop it on there. This is kind of nerve-wracking because you don't want to ruin it. Oh my gosh, it's going sideways. Okay, come on. What's going on? Why won't it? Is it stuck in there or something? Here we go. Oh no, it's on the wrong ring. I think this spacer is just doing me more harm. See if we can get that moved back. This is supposed to be in the center. Oh no, come on. The other ones went on a lot easier, but that's on. I'm going to clock that to the top right. Last one, of course, is number 1. That goes on the outside. It's a little bit shinier on the outside, but that can vary by which ring you get, I'm told. Let's see if we can get this one to go on smoothly. Of course, the one that I film is the one that goes on difficult. But, oh my gosh. Keep that up there. Slide it on, and come on, little guy. Okay. Well, it's not ideal, but it'll work. I'm going to clock that to the bottom right. We got our piston rings all installed on this piston. We have our oil control spacer here. The gap is at the top. We got our oil control ring on the outside. Gap is at the top left. Got the oil control ring on the inside. Gap is at the bottom left. We have our middle compression ring to the top right, and our outer compression ring to the bottom right. So I'm going to keep doing these. I'm keeping much oil on them, and we will try to keep them kind of from scraping against things, but it's really kind of difficult. Did any of you catch my mistake? I caught it, thankfully. So what we have here is the center compression ring. Actually has to be installed a certain way, and I'm trying to pull this thing off. It's not fun. The compression ring has a little dot on the left side, and you have to install this thing with the dot on the left side. So if you install it backward, the dot's going to be on the back and you can't see it. need to make sure that that dot is on the left, and I didn't remember that. So now we get to do it again. We do it right because we do it twice. For some of the outer compression rings, I read on the instructions here that sometimes the outer compression rings will also have a little marking on there, but these ones do not, so I'm going to put these in whichever way they come out of the box. There are a lot of things to keep track of here, and probably makes sense not to be filming a video when you do it, because you gotta pay attention. Well, I've been putting these cylinders in here. Got 2 in so far, and it's been so stressful that I have been imbibing in a adult beverage. So I've just been fighting the piston ring compressor basically. I got these new fully thinned cylinders from Clark's. They're very nice, and I think they have a Porsche company make them, because they're saying that somebody that does them already makes them. Anyway, they are very, very pretty. So what you have to do is remove the honing residue. We're going to do that with some brake clean over here. Real quick here. Alright. And we will wipe it out in this surgically prepared clean room. And then what I'm going to do is install these on the pistons that stick out the most right now. And then afterward I can turn it over and push the other pistons out further. So don't forget, there is a gasket on the inside. I forgot the first one, and yeah, that's that's when I started drinking, because oh my god, I cut my finger. Anyway, be careful. I'll slide that on there. I just want to get that basically set up. And then we have this ring compressor from Napa, and I hate it. But the way it works is you kind of spin that around. There's a little hook that together, and then they give you a really crappy little Allen wrench. The Allen wrench is a square instead of a hex to make things hard, and then they have a little release lever. The release lever unfortunately broke off literally on the first piston. So we're not using that, we're using a flathead screwdriver, as is tradition. So let's pop this thing on here. I should probably take this off first. The spring in the ring compressor will kind of allow you to open it up a little bit, so don't be afraid of pulling that. Alright, so I got that over all the rings here. What I'm going to do actually is turn this and put it on the top side. Should be a lot easier. Oh my gosh, you know, all these new expensive rings, and I'm doing this to them. Okay, I almost forgot. We want to get this thing and put some oil in it, just like I did on the piston rings. So we're going to get that all lubed up. Again, I'm just using normal engine oil on this. I'm not doing break-in oil on it. I just want something that's going to lubricate it when it slides on. So I got that on there. What I'm going to do is tighten up the ring compressor, and that will show me, I'll be able to figure out when it's kind of flush enough to go in. The cylinder has a little, oh, that feels like it's about flush. The cylinder has a little bit of a bevel, so when you put it on, it does kind of compress things in, but you want to make sure that that you're not pushing on those rings going in. I think we're started there. Now I got going on here is a small block of wood and my mallet. Just going on that. I had an issue where the ring on the bottom, the ring was coming out on the bottom, so I just want to keep an eye. I got a ring trying to peek out on this side, so I'm just gonna scoot that compressor out a little bit if I can. How are we looking? I think that's gonna be a problem. Let's get this thing over. Okay. Nope. It's kind of tricky because you got to keep it centered. My lovely camera operator Vanna White here will be holding up the bottom of the piston to make sure that it lines up correctly here. How are we looking on the ring over there? I think we're past one. Yeah, it just went past the first ring there. Awesome.
I forget about the notch and the jug. Just
so you can see another. All right, that works a lot better with 2 people. And I found that the oil rings don't necessarily need the ring compressor on them. They seat themselves pretty well anyway.
This one's hanging up though.
Oh, that's because I'm going sideways, so I'm gonna tap on the front end. Still hung up. I don't want to force it, I just want to use a bigger hammer. Oh. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah. It feels good. Does it look good? So we gotta pass the oil control rings. The piston and cylinder wanted to keep doing this in different dimensions, so we're gonna pop that on. Pop that on a little bit. Now I can take my compressor off. Because the little knob is broken, I gotta do this. A piece of crap. I'm gonna warranty this thing like tomorrow if I get these on. Okay, so that comes off, and then I can kind of pop it off on the top here. And that comes out. Kind of a pain in the butt to go and move around these studs, but it is possible. So
probably works better on a regular engine.
yeah, I think it would work better on a regular water-cooled engine. Maybe an inline 4 would be good. Maybe a V8. There we go. So that is off. I'm gonna keep working on this. That moves too, like that angle moves. I hate it. All right. Yes, I think that works all right. I can continue tapping this on gently as it goes in. All right, well that's just about seated. I do have a loose stud here, so I was planning I would do my Loctite on that a little bit later once I get all the cylinders on. I didn't say this before, but I'm not a professional. I've never done this before. I'm trying to figure it out, and I think it's working okay. So if you got to do a little something to make it happen for yourself, do a little something. Don't go crazy, but I had to take the edge off a little bit today. I cut my finger, and yeah. We're going to get this done in the garage tonight, and we'll catch up when the heads go on, I guess. We got all the cylinders on. Pretty happy about that. Now, it's not my intention to promote alcohol on this channel, but you got to know yourself, and you know, when you get angry and you get frustrated and you're working on a car, the quality of your work goes down, and you start to get angry and break things. You know, after I broke into that Hefeweizen, and I didn't make any more mistakes on this engine, so we got these things slid on here, and I think they're looking pretty good. Pretty happy with them, and they look fantastic. I mean, they look amazing to me. So I'm gonna cut it off here. I need to Loctite this stud in tomorrow, and I also need to start mounting that the heads on this engine. So for now, it is it is time to go in and get some rest, and we'll see you tomorrow. Alrighty, so I got to put this stud in. I realize it does slide through the fins. Pop it in, and manual says between 10 and 30 foot-pounds. This thing's going way deeper than the other ones are already. Alright, well, I'm gonna get an oversized stud for this. It's not worth trying to jeopardize that, so I will have to order one from Clark's and wait for this side. I guess I have nothing else to do but install the cylinder heads, so let's take a look at these. I got them all redone with new valves, new springs, new retainers, new seats. They're as close to brand new as I can get. This one, the seats in here in the cylinders look pretty good. This one's got a little bit of pitting. This one's got a little pitting in the cylinder area there, but this one looks really good, actually. So this one we're gonna slide on and bolt up here. I'm not gonna torque it down just yet, but we'll get this thing fitted up. Get our Clark's cylinder head gaskets here. It says these should be installed with a flat side against the head. One's at an angle, one's flat, so flat side against the head. Everything gonna line up. Yep. And we're on. Very nice. Engine's not chipping over. Alright, I'm gonna pop these bolts on. We also got brand new nice bolts from Clark's, because I looked at the hardware store, I couldn't find anything that was suitable. They get the right ones. And I also picked up the matching acorn nuts, and those are supposed to reduce the likelihood of getting corrosion on the end of the studs like I had before. We got the other head out now. So this is one of the areas of concern. The other two cylinders look actually pretty good, but this one's pretty pitted. And when I talked to the head guy, he said you actually kind of want to put something in this little bit of pitting here, because the head gasket may not fully seat on that, and you may get some leakage and low compression on the cylinder. So I asked, well, how do you go about sealing this thing? It's a pretty extreme environment. And he honestly said, 2-part epoxy. I said, are you saying what I think you're saying? He said, yes. We had a little conversation about this because obviously JB Weld does have a little bit of a bad rap. And for good reason, because people use it for really weird stuff. But what we're going to do here is very specific to this job, and I'm just looking to make sure it goes well. So I trust his opinion. It's not my specialty, and it is his specialty, so we're going to go with it. I'm a little bit nervous about that, but I think it's going to be okay. We're going to let that sit overnight, and I'll try to inspect it tomorrow, make sure it's still flat and everything. If I need to touch it up, I can, but otherwise I think that's could be ready to install. Next thing we want to tackle on here is the pushrod oil drain tubes. So I went and put some AMSOIL metal protector on this stuff so it doesn't rust in the future, and we have a set of Clark's oil O-rings. We're going to go install those now. Alright, there are several steps to this process, and I want to make sure that I outline all of them for you. So first of all is to take all these off if you have them on still. Make sure you get all your O-rings out, and then get all your bores cleaned here and on the crankcase. So the second thing you want to do is I have a little cup here, and I'm putting a little engine oil in it. I'm going to take my small O-rings here, and I'm going to dip them in the engine oil, get them all nice and lubricated, and then put those in these holes. And by the way, the ones that came out of here were so brittle I can basically crack them in my hands. So if you haven't replaced those, it might be a source of an oil leak. So once we get those in, we can put our pushrod tubes in. These are the oil drain tubes. So we want both of our oil seals to be coated in oil as well. Once we got those all nice, we can stick this through so the wide end goes out, and we can stick that halfway through and then install our oil seal on the back side or on the crankcase side. Got that done. Then I can put this oil seal on the outside. Kind of finicky sometimes, but you can get them done. Guide that through, putting that in its place in the crankcase. Now I can take a, what is this, 5/8 socket, just drive that in gently. Now it's bottomed out. And that's pretty much it. I can repeat it on the next one here. Just to show you again, I'm dipping those in my oil here. Stick that through. you get kind of a production process going with this stuff because you have to do 12 of them. Had oil seals on. I did clean all these bores out with acetone, so that worked pretty well. Acetone on a rag. It was kind of hard to get my finger in there, but it worked. Get my socket. Alright, well that's it for that. Now I gotta put this pushrod guide on. So there are little chamfers in the holes here. You might be able to see a little bit, it's like a 45-degree little bevel in there, so I'm going to let those up here. We got our, I don't know what you call these, head nuts, lower head nuts. I'm going to put a little anti-seize inside there, and then I'll do it to the other one. And the manual does specify anti-seize. It doesn't say where, but I'm guessing it's there because these seals will wipe anything out. So the problem here is that sometimes our studs are off center a little bit. So I would start with one that's on center and get that get the thread started. All right, and then we can start this one. Kind of set it up there, and then I can reach back behind and try to push the stud over with my hand underneath the cylinder there. So I got those both started. Now I'll just run them in with my speed wrench here. And that's it for now. Later we're going to torque these down, but for now I'm just installing everything and making sure it's on there. We'll worry about the torques afterward. As you can see, that is by no means a difficult or time-consuming process. Make sure it's clean, it'll go on easy. It's time to torque the head nuts. The heads are torqued down a little bit differently than a lot of water-cooled engines, so if you haven't done an air-cooled engine or a Corvair before, you might be kind of freaked out like I am. So what we have is a line of smaller 9/16 nuts up here, and then we have the larger, what are these, 13/16 nuts down here, which are actually kind of bolts with studs on them. Confusingly, the manual tells you to use 27 to 33 foot-pounds up here and 27 to 33 foot-pounds down here. It seems like a typo, but I think they just mean that it's the same torque no matter what. It is the same size stud, so it would make sense. Complicating things further, they, in the manual, recommend putting anti-seize on the lower studs with those bolts and nuts, but not on the upper ones. They don't recommend anything for the upper ones. Correct torque specification is about a 25% range, so I'm planning to torque down to the lower end of that range. That means that with rusty studs, meaning I'll have to torque more, and the anti-seize meaning I'll have to torque less, hopefully I will be in that ballpark when I hit about 27 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead with that. It's confusing, and then I hope you like switching sockets because pretty much every other bolt uses a different socket size. I'm going to go ahead with the 12 pounds here, and we're going to go in a pattern from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's the same torque pattern that you're going to use for the final torques, but I'm just going to bring these all up to a minimum here. Now it's time for the actual torque. Now, I did the other side first so I get a feel for how it goes. I did notice that sometimes or actually pretty often, the upper studs tend to kind of twist. So when you feel like you're torquing up, it's actually twisting the stud a little bit. I ended up going through one full torque sequence, then going back and rechecking everything, and it took quite a bit more torque. And then I'd recheck things a third time. And that means that in total, when I bring everything up to the baseline of 12, then I do 27, 27, 27. I do end up doing it 4 separate times for each head, but I'd rather do it an extra couple times and be more sure of what I've got than to do it once or twice and just kind of like, I guess it's okay. One of the other issues that I had that I'm keeping an eye on is that the upper ones, when I torqued them the third time, didn't seem to ever set up to the torque. So I think I gotta make sure that they're up to 27 first, and then go through and kind of do a hand torque just to feel how it goes. And I think that's just the nut is down as far as it's going to go as far as torque is concerned, and that it's just twisting the stud at that point. So going to be very careful with that, make sure that I don't accidentally over torque those, but otherwise we're just going to go through and do the torque sequence again. This will get quite a bit of twist in the stud. Oh. Right now we're just trying to get up to 20 pounds with this thing, and it's not liking it too much. Motherfucker. Fuck. No. Fuck no. You may remember that was the most rusted stud that the head was stuck on when I pulled the heads off originally, so that's been a known issue. Looks like it just became a lot bigger issue. So I'm gonna cut this video off here, gonna untorque the studs and the nuts and everything over on this side, and we will try to figure out what to do with it, I guess. Thanks for watching. We're going to press on regardless. Well, when I was doing the wheel bearings, the rear wheel bearings on Boo preemptively, then that was in like 2015. It was my only vehicle, so I had to take the axle shafts out, make a holder for them on my bike trailer, and ride my bike like 10 or 15 miles out to a machine shop to get them pressed off and pressed back on again. And I had to come back like the next week with my bike and ride with the trailer another like 15 miles each way, I think, to get those wheel bearings done. So if I would have had a press like this, it would have saved me a lot of riding.